I ever thank him enough. Take your work seriously, but not yourself. Ethel Barrymore put it best when she said, "You grow up the day you have your first real laugh at yourself." There is absolutely no future in taking life too seriously. Our mental institutions and prisons are filled with people who have. Develop your sense of humor and use it frequently. It is impossible to laugh and be angry at the same time. A good sense of humor creates positive energy and prevents the negative emotions from clouding your life. Your life is a gift that you must give back to your Creator one day. So enjoy it to the hilt and leave the long faces to those who are going to live forever. Accept the fact that many things in life will not live up to your expectations. This is hardly a perfect world, and I don't know about you, but I'd feel terribly out of place if it were. Practice accepting those things in life you cannot change. Tolerance and serenity are great antidotes to anger. Give your anger a rain check. If something bothers you, count to 10 or, better yet, tell yourself, "I'll get mad about this tomorrow." Postponing anger is a good way to minimize it. Spontaneously unloading your anger on your boss, spouse, or secretary can escalate minor mishaps into major catastrophes. Postponing your anger can reduce the odds of that happening. Realize that you don't have to get mad to take constructive action. Positive, enthusiastic emotions achieve fulfillment, making good use of time and creating energy rather than draining it. Ridding yourself of guilt, worry, fear of failure, and excessive anger can make you a new person. Suddenly, you will find you have time, energy, and abilities you never dreamed you had. Picture yourself as a container in which time and energy are stored, and your time and energy as the liquid in the container. The negative emotions are holes in the bottom of the container. To the extent that you are able to plug up the holes, you will have more time and energy to do the things in life that are fulfilling to you. To carry the analogy one step further, the greater the pressure that is applied to the liquid, the faster it will drain out of the holes. This is also true with work. The best use of time and energy is made by taking the pressure off. However, before we can take the pressure off, we have to know where the pressure really comes from. Chapter 6. No more excuses. Get things done today. If you want to make an easy job seem mighty hard, just keep putting off doing it. Olin Miller. Are you a procrastinator? If you answered yes, allow me to congratulate you for your honesty. To some degree, we all are. Procrastination is so universal that there is now a National Procrastination Club whose members have been planning to meet for some time but haven't gotten around to it yet. The price of procrastination. Several underlying beliefs discussed in Chapter 1 contribute to procrastination. Myths such as believing activity means productivity, opting for the easy way as the best way, viewing work as inherently unpleasant, subscribing to the justice myth, and the belief that we work best under pressure, provide us with ample excuses for delaying or avoiding tasks. Procrastination can be insidious as it often goes unnoticed. The tasks you complete are what you achieve, while those left undone or postponed accumulate. However, procrastination becomes problematic when it leads to neglecting or delaying tasks that are important to you. The high cost of delay. 1. Waste of the present. Dale Carnegie once lamented, "One of the most tragic things I know about human nature is that all of us tend to put off living." Dreaming endlessly about a better future neglects the present opportunities and fails to build a meaningful future. Today is all we truly possess, and procrastination squanders it. 2. An unfulfilled life. Procrastination stifles fulfillment by relegating meaningful action to an uncertain tomorrow. For the procrastinator, today never has to count for anything because there's always the promise of tomorrow. This void in the present invites less desirable alternatives to fill the gap. 3. Boredom. Choosing to be bored is often a hallmark of procrastination. Life itself isn't boring. Rather, it's a matter of using present moments constructively. Those who opt for boredom as a lifestyle merely structure their time around procrastination. 4. The anxiety of working under pressure. Procrastination breeds anxiety by leaving tasks until the last minute, creating unnecessary stress. The phenomenon is evident on April 15th at the post office, where last-minute taxpayers abound, demonstrating the perils of delaying important duties. 5. Impotent goals. Many procrastinators have aspirations and goals, but these remain mere aspirations due to their inability to take action. The chronic "I'm gonna" syndrome, expressing intentions without follow-through, characterizes their lack of achievement. 6. The constant plague of unsolved problems. Ignoring problems in the hope they'll disappear is a hallmark of procrastination. However, unresolved issues tend to multiply and compound over time. Neglecting a minor issue can lead to major repercussions, echoing the adage that a stitch in time saves 9. 7. Continuous frustration. Frustration arises from unmet expectations in life. Procrastinators perpetuate their frustration by deferring action and relying on hope rather than concrete steps towards improvement. This cycle of inaction can lead to significant personal and professional setbacks. 8. Other results of procrastination. Procrastination can also manifest in poor health due to neglecting medical concerns and in a mediocre career by failing to seize opportunities. Indecision becomes a way of life, robbing individuals of control over their futures. Fatigue, ironically, becomes a consequence of the mental and emotional strain caused by chronic procrastination. Certainly. Here is a professionally revised version of the text with spelling corrections, grammar adjustments, and some layout improvements. Why we procrastinate. With the price of procrastination being so exorbitant, it is only natural to ask, why do we do it? Most, but not all, reasons for procrastinating are emotional in nature. To escape an overwhelming task. By filling up present moments with trivia, one can escape doing something important but seemingly too large to tackle. For example, Ben, a department manager, faces the task of preparing a semi-annual status report. He looks at the job and thinks, if I start this now, it's just going to be one interruption after another. So he deludes himself into believing he'll do the report someday when he won't have to worry about interruptions, spending the rest of his day writing memos, answering the telephone, conversing with colleagues, and writing routine correspondence. He goes home tired but content. After all, he got a lot done today. As the report's deadline approaches, Ben embarks on a crash program and ends up writing it at night or over the weekend, complaining about being overworked. To escape unpleasant tasks. All of us have important but unpleasant things to do from time to time. Given the choice, most will opt for anything pleasant over something unpleasant. Take the case of Charlie, whose garage is wall-to-wall chaos. One Saturday morning, Charlie receives an ultimatum from his wife. Clean out the garage this afternoon or sleep in it tonight. On his way to the garage, Charlie notices his neighbor, Fred, having car trouble. Being a lover of mechanics and a good neighbor, Charlie spends the next 2 hours helping Fred fix his car. Then Fred has Charlie over for a beer. It's the least he can do. Inside, Fred and Charlie spend the next 3 hours absorbed in a football game on television. What a game! When the game ends, so does Saturday afternoon. Charlie returns home to a chagrined wife who gives him a look reminiscent of the Spanish Inquisition. Charlie ends up cleaning and organizing the garage that night, hindered by darkness and doing a mediocre job, which gives him another payoff. To excuse poor work. This is one of the biggest cop-outs of delay. I just couldn't get to it until the last minute. If only I had more time, I could have done a better job. As a college professor, I frequently hear that excuse from students who submit poorly written term papers. The most amazing part of that excuse is that term papers are assigned the first week of class and collected the last. Yet, I hear that excuse at least once each semester. To gain sympathy. See how hard I try, is the battle cry of the procrastinating warrior. The translation of such a statement is, don't see how little I have done. Ben, looking haggard and overworked, turns in a half-baked report to his boss a week late. After stumbling around in the darkness for 6 hours, Charlie drags in, covered from head to toe with dirt, and flops into bed, totally fatigued. Anxiety-laden students beg the professor for term paper deadline extensions. Don't you feel sorry for all these poor, unfortunate victims of circumstance? Hogwash. To get someone else to do the job. There's nothing wrong with delegating tasks. However, there are easier, quicker, and more direct ways to go about it than playing the put-off game with someone. Such covert behavior wastes everybody's time. Ideas for effectively delegating are discussed in Chapter 9. To protect a weak self-image. An inferior self-image and fears of failure or success are other reasons for inaction. By deluding oneself with excuses for not doing, one avoids the anxiety and pain of failure and can also avoid success and any problems feared to accompany it. Thus, one can just be the same old procrastinating self, complete with all the accompanying miseries. Choice, most will opt for anything pleasant over something unpleasant. Take the case of Charlie, whose garage is wall-to-wall chaos. One Saturday morning, Charlie receives an ultimatum from his wife. Clean out the garage this afternoon or sleep in it tonight. On his way to the garage, Charlie notices his neighbor, Fred, having car trouble. Being a lover of mechanics and a good neighbor, Charlie spends the next 2 hours helping Fred fix his car. Then Fred has Charlie over for a beer. It's the least he can do. Inside, Fred and Charlie spend the next 3 hours absorbed in a football game on television. What a game! When the game ends, so does Saturday afternoon. Charlie returns home to a chagrined wife who gives him a look reminiscent of the Spanish Inquisition. Charlie ends up cleaning and organizing the garage that night, hindered by darkness and doing a mediocre job, which gives him another payoff. To excuse poor work. This is one of the biggest cop-outs of delay. I just couldn't get to it until the last minute. If only I had more time, I could have done a better job. As a college professor, I frequently hear that excuse from students who submit poorly written term papers. The most amazing part of that excuse is that term papers are assigned the first week of class and collected the last. Yet, I hear that excuse at least once each semester. To gain sympathy. "See how hard I try," is the battle cry of the procrastinating warrior. The translation of such a statement is, "Don't see how little I have done." Ben, looking haggard and overworked, turns in a half-baked report to his boss a week late. After stumbling around in the darkness for 6 hours, Charlie drags in, covered from head to toe with dirt, and flops into bed, totally fatigued. Anxiety-laden students beg the professor for term paper deadline extensions. Don't you feel sorry for all these poor, unfortunate victims of circumstance? Hogwash. To get someone else to do the job. There's nothing wrong with delegating tasks. However, there are easier, quicker, and more direct ways to go about it than playing the put-off game with someone. Such covert behavior wastes everybody's time. Ideas for effectively delegating are discussed in Chapter 9. To protect a weak self-image. An inferior self-image and fears of failure or success are other reasons for inaction. By deluding oneself with excuses for not doing, one avoids the anxiety and pain of failure and can also avoid success and any problems feared to accompany it. Thus, one can just be the same old procrastinating self, complete with all the accompanying miseries, misfortunes, and frustrations of the past. To avoid change. Giving oneself a lifetime to be a bored, critical, indecisive, unachieving, blah individual is a way to avoid change. The easy way tape plays on. Other reasons for procrastination. Not all procrastination is bad, and not all reasons for procrastinating are emotional cop-outs for inaction. There are several non-emotional reasons for procrastinating, mentioned here briefly because they have been discussed in detail earlier. Improper goals can be a source of delay. Are you sure this goal is still important or necessary? Is it really your goal? Insufficient information can block problem-solving, decision-making, and task completion. Goals without deadlines tend never to get achieved, or get achieved much later. Overcommitment inevitably leads to procrastination. Saying yes to everything decreases the chances of completing anything. Unrealistic time estimates can cause bottlenecks and delays. Remember Murphy's Law, everything takes longer than expected. Techniques for creating momentum. When Newton formulated his law of inertia, he probably wasn't thinking about human behavior. However, the law applies equally well to people and objects. A body, human or otherwise, at rest tends to remain at rest, and a body in motion tends to remain in motion. When procrastinating, one is at rest, and the hardest part is getting started. Once in motion, most people will tend to remain in motion. The following list offers ideas for creating momentum. For any given task, one or more of these techniques can help conquer procrastination. Recognize and acknowledge the futility of procrastination as a way of living. By procrastinating, one puts oneself under a useless emotional strain. Do you really want a life of frustration, fatigue, and boredom? No one does. To the degree you let yourself live a life of delay and inaction, you invite the dark side of living into your existence. Admittedly, it's often tough to get up and tackle difficult tasks, but what's your alternative? Spending your life rotting on the vine like an unpicked tomato may be your idea of living, but I seriously doubt it. You wouldn't be taking the time to read this book if you didn't value your life. Break down overwhelming tasks into smaller ones. Anyone who has performed monumental feats knows the value of this idea. Henry Ford once remarked, "Nothing is particularly hard if you divide it into small jobs." The auto assembly line was founded on this idea. Want to write a 200-page book? Write a page each day and finish in less than 7 months. Want to be a millionaire? Invest $1,000 annually starting at age 30 and get a 15% compounded annual return. At age 65, you'll have $1 million. Whenever faced with a seemingly overwhelming task, divide it into 5 or 10-minute subtasks. Write them down, list them in order, and tackle the first one now. Once started, you'll gain momentum to finish the job. Large successes are usually a series of small ones. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. Face unpleasant tasks squarely. A humorist once defined an optimist as a woman who leaves dinner dishes because she'll feel more like washing them in the morning. Most unpleasant tasks are like dinner dishes. Ignoring them doesn't make them disappear and usually makes things worse. Why cloud your horizons when a little effort brings sunny skies? Reserve 10 or 15 minutes to work on an unpleasant task and quit when time's up. Tasks such as preparing a budget, taking an inventory, or cleaning the attic can be handled this way. Unfortunately, some tasks like firing an employee or delivering bad news can't be done piecemeal. In such cases, do it now. Not doing it today ensures it will burden you with other tasks tomorrow. Realize you compound your workload with inaction and resolve to do the task now. Do a startup task. Sometimes a little spontaneous physical action gets you in the mood to start a major task. Need to rake leaves? Walk to the corner store and buy lawn leaf bags now. Need to write a report? List 10 major points on a piece of paper and rank them in order for discussion. Need to answer a letter? Address the envelope now. Need to settle a misunderstanding with a customer? Look up their telephone number now. Take advantage of your moods. How often have you said, "I'm just not in the mood"? Use your moods to your advantage. You may not feel like writing a report today, but do you feel like calling someone for helpful information? You may not feel like fixing a TV antenna, but do you feel like gathering necessary hardware? Use your moods to work for you rather than against you. Think of something important you've been delaying. List the good things that could happen by doing it. List all the disadvantages of inaction. You'll usually find the advantages of action outweigh the liabilities of inaction. This technique creates enthusiasm to get you going. For example, suppose it's spring and you want to plant a vegetable garden but haven't done it. Your list might look like this. Advantages of action. Fresh tasting, homegrown vegetables are a real treat. Disadvantages of inaction. Please make sure to continue the rest of your work in this format. Advantages of action. Fresh tasting, homegrown vegetables are a real treat. Enjoyment of gardening activities and being outdoors. Savings on grocery bills by producing your own vegetables. Health benefits of eating fresh, organic produce. Pride and satisfaction in creating something productive. Disadvantages of inaction. Miss out on the joy of gardening and connecting with nature. Continued reliance on store-bought vegetables of potentially lower quality. Delaying self-sufficiency and sustainability efforts. Risk of losing planting season and delaying potential harvest. Continued disappointment in not achieving a personal goal. 1. Prioritize self-care and well-being. Taking care of oneself is important for mental, emotional, and physical health. It's often easy to prioritize other things over self-care, but neglecting oneself can lead to burnout and decreased productivity. 2. Seek support from others. Having a support system can provide encouragement, advice, and accountability. Surrounding oneself with people who are motivated and proactive can inspire one to take action and overcome procrastination. 3. Reflect on successes and learn from setbacks. Reflecting on past successes can boost confidence and remind oneself of capabilities. Learning from setbacks helps in making adjustments and improving future outcomes. 4. Reward yourself. Rewarding oneself after completing tasks or milestones can reinforce positive behavior and motivate continued productivity. Rewards can be small, such as taking a break or enjoying a treat, or more substantial, such as treating oneself to a movie or a day off. Treat, or more substantial, such as treating oneself to a movie or a day off. 5. Time is running out. If I don't start soon, I won't get another chance for a year. 6. Without the garden, we will have to settle for a less enjoyable vacation. 7. With the additional savings in grocery money, we can afford the camping trip to Yellowstone this year. 8. Growing a garden is good exercise and a great diversion from my job. 9. Without some additional diversions, I'll probably spend my spare time worrying about my. 10. This is an opportunity to learn by doing something I've never done before. 11. I'm getting a little old to believe in the jolly green giant. Lonely is a man without his own niblets. 12. I can make this a family project that we can all learn from, enjoy, participate in, and take pride in. This can bring us all closer. 13. We all seem to be drifting in separate ways. Without some common goals, family unity can be severely damaged. 14. Make a commitment to someone or place a wager. Tell your boss that you will have the budget prepared a week early or buy him dinner of his choice. If you are a sales 20 representative, bet one of your colleagues, or more than one if you wish, that you will increase last month's sales by 20%. Or buy all the drinks at a future happy hour. Ensure there's something in it for you if you win. You want both an incentive for reaching your goal and a penalty for falling short. 15. Give yourself a reward. This is one of my favorite methods for conquering procrastination because it's positive in nature. Identify an important goal that you have been avoiding and decide on a fitting reward for when you achieve it. For instance, you might decide to get that new briefcase you've been admiring after adding 10 new customers to your list. Or how about a new pair of shoes after cleaning out the attic or shampooing the rugs? Make sure your reward aligns with the size of the task. For example, if you have been attending night school to earn an advanced degree, promise yourself something substantial like a 2-week cruise after graduation. Setting up your own reward system can be an effective way to reduce procrastination. Just be honest with yourself. If you complete the task, give yourself the reward. If you don't, withhold the reward. 4. Rational delays. Employ the following previously discussed methods. Get more rest. Avoid overcommitment. Set realistic time schedules. Resolve to make every day count. Your life is too short to waste on inaction. George Allen captured it best when he remarked, "The future is now." After living with an incurable cancer for some time, Senator Hubert Humphrey observed, "You learn to treat each day as a gift." Before you start your day, resolve to accomplish 2 things. Enjoy today and do something that will contribute to a better tomorrow. Each day is precious. Treat it as such, and you will make significant strides toward overcoming procrastination. Be decisive and summon the courage to act. A good working definition of courage is the ability to act despite fear. Consider the case of Alfred, a 50-year-old chief engineer with a wife and family. Since age 40, Alfred had planned to start his own manufacturing business. He had a product, identified a good market, possessed technical expertise, secured capital, and lined up potential customers. However, Alfred hesitated to make the final commitment due to fears of potential failure. What if the entire venture goes bankrupt? What if I can't afford my children's college tuition? What if I can't meet the mortgage payments? Alfred's fears were holding him back, as Lloyd Douglas observed. If a man harbors any sort of fear, it makes him landlord to a ghost. Encouraged by his family, Alfred eventually took the plunge and launched his business, where he has since achieved personal and financial success. When I spoke with him 5 years into his business venture, he expressed regret only for the years of enjoyment and satisfaction he missed by delaying the decision to start his own business. Alfred's experience reminded me of Maurice Freehill's question, "Who is more foolish, the child afraid of the dark or the man afraid of the light?" Delaying action wastes valuable time, and as Alfred discovered, all the wealth in the world cannot reclaim lost moments, let alone lost years. They are gone forever. Remember, you possess greater potential than you realize and can endure far more adversity than you imagine. Eliminate self-defeating statements such as, "I'm gonna," "I wish," "I want," "I hope," and the like. Make something happen. Your actions will speak for themselves. Refuse to be bored. Are you stuck in a rut? Break free from it. Take a different route to work. Dine at a new restaurant for lunch. Change your hairstyle or purchase some new clothes. Explore an exotic dish you've always been wary of and purposely order or cook it. Substitute the familiar with the unfamiliar. As Auntie Mame once said, life is a banquet. So why spend each day sitting in a corner with a can of sardines? There is so much world to see and so little time. Practice doing absolutely nothing. When you find yourself avoiding an important task, sit in a chair and see how long you can do nothing. In just a few minutes, you will likely find yourself eager to get started. Most of us struggle with the art of doing nothing. Once you can no longer bear the void of idleness, commit to tackling the task you've been avoiding and begin it, right now. Frequently ask yourself, what is the best use of my time and energy right now? If your current activity does not align with the answer, stop it and redirect your time and energy to a more important task. Finally, each morning, ask yourself, what is the greatest challenge facing me today, and what am I going to do about it? Chapter 7. No More Distractions. The Ultimate Focus Formula. A committee is a group of men who individually can do nothing but collectively can meet and decide that nothing can be done. Alfred E. Smith. I'd love to waste my time. When do we start? What do these statements have in common? They translate to an inclination to engage in unproductive activities. If you believe you are paid for being available rather than being effective, your organization may not prioritize results. Unfortunately, the growth of large bureaucracies often prioritizes activities, rituals, and red tape over productivity. Productive individuals prefer to produce results, and it offends their sense of purpose to do otherwise. Do you dislike committee meetings and resent being constantly available for random calls and drop-in visitors? If so, you likely have a natural disposition toward effectiveness. Given the chance, you might work less, accomplish more, and find greater meaning in your work. Meetings, visitors, and telephone calls are not inherently unproductive, just as gunpowder isn't inherently destructive. It all depends on how they are used. Unfortunately, the perceived legitimacy of these common time wasters allows them to proliferate unchecked. By managing meetings, visitors, and telephone use effectively, we can transform these potential time wasters into tools that enhance effectiveness. Why we have so many useless meetings. When it comes to meetings, many of us act as though we've never heard the adage time is money. Meetings are often seen as the top time waster. Consider the cost. Calculate the per-hour salaries of committee members, and you'll find that meetings can cost thousands of dollars per hour. Yet, many fail to see meetings in terms of dollars and cents. Here are other common reasons for unnecessary meetings. To provide an audience for someone. Some people enjoy hearing themselves talk and feel compelled to share their thoughts with a group. It's like the late Senator Everett Dirksen once said during a Senate committee meeting, "My dear sir, you are interrupting the man I most want to hear." How often have you attended meetings where you simply listened to someone's opinions on everything from global economics to dog breeding? Too many times, I'm sure. It's an expensive ego trip and a significant reason for the prevalence of useless meetings. To socialize. Few can tolerate prolonged periods of solitary work. Meetings provide an opportunity for social interaction under the guise of conducting business. Ralph can discuss his golf game with Bill, and George can flirt with the boss's secretary who takes meeting minutes. While a social gathering might be more appropriate, we avoid acknowledging that little work gets done, choosing instead to socialize during committee sessions. To escape being effective. Committee involvement can fill your schedule and provide an excuse for neglecting critical job responsibilities. By volunteering for multiple committees, you can justify ignoring essential tasks or submitting assignments late. Meetings appear to structure work time ambitiously, yet time might be better spent on a Caribbean vacation. This illustrates the activity myth, once again. Habit. Regularly scheduled meetings often persist out of tradition long after their relevance has diminished. People resist change, and traditions endure despite their fading purpose. Years ago, I read about a federal government tea tasting board established in the 18th century. While considered a waste of taxpayer money, tradition kept it operational. I'm unsure if it was disbanded, but traditions often persist even when obsolete. To pass the buck. Individuals sometimes form committees to avoid making tough decisions alone. By seeking committee recommendations, they share responsibility. This strategy, often employed to cover your ass (CYA), leads to a lack of accountability and inefficiencies in educational institutions. As Richard Buskirk pointed out, something that is everyone's responsibility is no one's responsibility. To create illusion of participation in important decisions. Not all committees utilize the capabilities of members to make critical decisions. In many cases, bosses form committees to gather recommendations they can either ignore or dictate terms to. Meetings become exercises in token participation, where decisions are already made, rendering advice-seeking pointless. This approach was criticized during Richard Nixon's presidency, as members of Congress accused him of pseudo-participation. Getting the most from meetings. Hendrik van Loon once defined a committee as a group which succeeds in getting something done only when it consists of 3 members, one of whom happens to be sick and another absent. Fortunately, it doesn't have to be that way. With a little forethought and diligence, we can eliminate many useless meetings and make the remaining ones more effective. The following ideas are presented with those purposes in mind. General guidelines. Begin by taking an inventory of all existing committees and meetings. Write down the purpose of each. Are they really necessary? Have some outlived their usefulness? Can any be consolidated or eliminated? If so, do it. Have a minimum number of standing committees. No committee should be allowed to linger indefinitely. Regularly question the purpose of each committee's existence. Every time you form a committee, state its purpose, give it a deadline for achieving its purpose, if possible, and dissolve it when it has achieved its goal. Never call a meeting when there is a reasonable alternative. Can a conference call be arranged instead? Can the job be done by an individual? Never attend a meeting if you can send someone else. Keep the number of attending members as small as possible. Large committees become cumbersome and usually end up being dominated by a small number of people. Preparation. Working smart in meetings is much like the rest of life. An investment of time and energy in forethought and planning pays handsome dividends. If you decide to call a meeting, determine precisely what you expect to accomplish. Every meeting should have at least one goal, and if there is more than one goal, a set of priorities. Set a starting and ending time for each meeting and resolve to stick to them. If people arrive late, begin without them. Schedule meetings back-to-back, before lunch, or near the end of the day to prevent long, drawn-out meetings. Make an agenda and circulate it well in advance to those attending. List the goals, topics to be covered, and start and end times. Providing background reading material prior to the meeting helps participants prepare to discuss issues efficiently. Prepare visuals like charts, graphs, handouts, slides, and use of a chalkboard to clarify or illustrate points. Provide notepads and pencils for participants. Ensure physical surroundings are comfortable with adequate size, lighting, and ventilation. Execution. Many meetings only result in calling another. The following guidelines can help prevent your best-laid plans from going up in smoke at the conference. Stick to the prepared agenda and stay on course. Focus on the meeting's purpose and the current topic. Prevent meetings from getting sidetracked or degenerating into bull sessions. It's the chairman's responsibility to maintain focus and handle issues one at a time. If invited to a meeting and you feel you have nothing to contribute, consider not attending. If attendance is mandatory, use the time for productive activities like reading or correspondence. If conducting a meeting, excuse those who have finished their contributions before its end. If attending and you've contributed, ask to be excused. If chairing a meeting, ensure everyone participates. Encourage quieter members to speak and manage those who dominate discussions or get off topic calmly. If attendees seem bored or bogged down, briefly divert to engage them before returning to the agenda. Hold stand-up meetings to expedite discussions. Uncomfortable seating can also discourage prolonged meetings. Follow-up. Designate someone to take accurate minutes at meetings. Ideally, use a third party like a secretary rather than a participant. Distribute minutes promptly to all attendees. Memory fades quickly after meetings, so good recording is essential. Prepare a checklist before each meeting outlining goals. Afterward, compare outcomes with the agenda to measure meeting effectiveness. Eliminate or improve future meetings based on these evaluations. In summary, enhancing meeting effectiveness involves eliminating unnecessary meetings and focusing necessary ones on clear goals. Regularly assess their contribution to organizational goals. Life with drop-in. One of the chief challenges in the work world is drop-in visitors. It's common to spend half or more of our workday managing unexpected interruptions from visitors, whether they're colleagues or sales representatives. Like meetings, drop-ins can lead to inefficiency and procrastination. Making the telephone work for you. It's always intriguing to be interrupted from the task at hand by the ringing or buzzing of the telephone. Who could it be? What do they want? The mystery of the unknown is always more appealing than attending to the task at hand. So, we take the calls as they come and allow our work to be randomly disrupted. Actually, telephonitis results from a good thing put to misuse. The following ideas can help you prevent and cure this dreadful effectiveness killer. Log your calls for 1 week. Record who calls, when they call, what they want, and the duration of the calls. Log your outgoing calls similarly. The 80-20th rule probably applies here. 80% of your calls come from less than 20% of all callers. After completing a week's log, answer the following questions. Who called? Whom did you call? Which calls were important? How many calls could be handled by someone else? How much time was spent on unnecessary calls? Make your telephone a time and energy saver. That's why it's there. The telephone is a terrific labor-saving tool. Use it for conference calls rather than the time and expense of a meeting. Instead of writing letters, use the telephone. Clerical costs are rising while the cost of long-distance calls is decreasing. The telephone provides information in minutes that a letter could take weeks or months to acquire. Finally, use the telephone to save time and expense on trips. Proper use of the telephone is one of our greatest effectiveness tools. Establish a daily time slot for placing and receiving calls. For most of us, the best time is in the morning when people are likely to be at their offices. Encourage your regular callers to call during those hours. Have your secretary screen your calls. This can be done tactfully without making you seem inaccessible. Your secretary can say to the caller, "He's tied up at the moment. Would you like me to interrupt him or may I have him call you back?" Most callers will opt for a callback. Your secretary can also handle routine inquiries, eliminating your need to call back. Outline your information before making outgoing calls. This clarifies the main points in your mind, reducing the chances of forgetting important details during the conversation. Use a small hourglass timer. Place it by your phone and challenge yourself to complete calls within 3 minutes. Keep track of your progress each week. Make a game out of reducing your telephone time and reward yourself for achieving weekly reductions. Set the tone of the conversation from the outset. When placing a call, ask to speak to the party directly and introduce yourself. Minimize small talk and get to the reason for your call promptly. Chapter 8. Snowstorm Solved. Organize your paper today. Xerox, a trademark for a photocopying device that can make rapid reproductions of human error perfectly.
Merle L. Misham.
During his tenure at NASA, Wernher von Braun once remarked, "We can lick gravity, but sometimes the paperwork is overwhelming." Reflect on how paper has entrenched itself into the very fabric of our lives. We wake up to the morning paper, and for most of us, paper is to our occupations what bread is to our diets, a staple that fattens. In 1977, it was estimated that there were 2.5 times more clerical employees in business than there were producers of goods and services. Just as time is money, paper is money. Let's imagine you own a small business with a 10% profit margin on sales. If your paper workload increases and necessitates hiring another clerk at $150 per week, that amounts to $7,800 annually. To cover this expense, you would need to increase yearly sales revenue by $78,000, not including fringe benefits. Starting to see the picture? Conversely, saving $7,800 is equivalent to earning $7,800, directly adding to profit. Beyond monetary costs, the needless waste of time and energy due to excessive paper use is even more concerning. Filling out forms, writing memos, reading computer printouts, preparing budgets, writing reports, making multiple copies on copiers, and sorting through junk mail all consume valuable resources. Causes of the paper blizzard. Rare is the employed individual who doesn't feel the effects of the paper blizzard. We universally agree that there's too much of it. If nobody likes this deluge of paper, it begs the question, why is there so much paper? The growth of government. This is perhaps the largest contributor to the paper blizzard. American institutions spend $40 billion annually solely on filling out forms and reports for the federal government, with costs increasing each year. The chairman of a major pharmaceutical company claims his firm expends more man-hours on government paperwork than on cancer and heart disease research combined. Similarly, a large oil refinery's chairman asserts that the man-hours devoted to government paperwork could stem from the paper blizzard. We universally agree that there's too much of it. If nobody likes this deluge of paper, it begs the question, why is there so much paper? The growth of government. This is perhaps the largest contributor to the paper blizzard. American institutions spend $40 billion annually solely on filling out forms and reports for the federal government, with costs increasing each year. The chairman of a major pharmaceutical company claims his firm expends more man-hours on government paperwork than on cancer and heart disease research combined. Similarly, a large oil refinery's chairman asserts that the man-hours devoted to government paperwork could staff and operate another major refinery. A prominent university spends $300,000 annually on personnel to complete reports for government grants and contracts. It's estimated that paperwork adds $50 to $75 to the cost of each new car. The increased government involvement in healthcare has inundated hospitals, physicians, and clinics with additional paperwork, which incurs costs without enhancing patient care. The information explosion. The knowledge industry, encompassing educational institutions, major media, and all entities contributing to human knowledge, is perhaps our society's largest industry. Knowledge is expanding exponentially, requiring professionals in technical and non-technical fields to stay current. Annually, around 35,000 new book titles are published by approximately 1,300 U.S. publishers. Add newspapers, journals, pamphlets, and other publications, and you have another significant contributor to the paper blizzard. Copy machines. These devices are major contributors to the paper blizzard. Nearly every office has some type of copier, photocopy, ditto, mimeograph, etc. If you need 5 copies, why not make 7 or 8? Just in case? This mentality contributes to drowning in our own clutter despite the intent to increase efficiency. Insecurity. The old work myth persists. Creating excessive paperwork keeps everyone busy, alleviating guilt about insufficient work. Busy hands are seen as happy hands, and an idle mind is considered the devil's workshop. Keep shuffling those papers. Lack of trust. There's a pervasive mistrust today, leading to demands for everything in writing. While some caution is justified, widespread mistrust undermines societal foundations. Trust among people is essential for society to function smoothly. However, over-documentation and verification of trivial details waste time and paper. Many documents duplicate information already recorded elsewhere, contributing to unnecessary paperwork. The rise of computers. Alongside electronic data pollution, EDP, increased computer use generates vast amounts of paper. Some computers can print thousands of lines per minute, producing reams of useless data, junk mail, and meaningless documents. How to melt the blizzard. The odds of any one person melting the paper blizzard are akin to melting an iceberg with a match. The momentum of government growth, computer use, copy machines, and the knowledge industry suggests more paper in our future. Nevertheless, proactive steps can shield you from the deluge. Reduce paper generation. Focus on achieving results rather than generating paperwork. Act on necessary papers immediately and discard or store others efficiently. Minimize written documentation. Opt for face-to-face communication over memos whenever possible. Avoid duplicating information already documented elsewhere. Screen paper. Prioritize tasks that require your attention and delegate routine paperwork to assistants. Remove yourself from unnecessary mailing lists and subscriptions. Avoid overusing copiers. Resist the temptation to make unnecessary copies. Each additional copy contributes to unnecessary clutter and inefficiency. If in doubt, throw it out. Embrace a culture of minimalism in paperwork. Regularly declutter files and discard outdated or unnecessary documents. Handle paper once. Adopt the principle of acting on each piece of paper immediately. If it requires action, do it promptly to avoid revisiting the same paperwork multiple times. Utilize telephones. Take advantage of modern telecommunications to reduce written correspondence. Direct communication saves time and ensures immediate clarification. Master dictation. Use dictation machines to expedite written communication. Dictating letters can be significantly faster than writing them by hand, optimizing productivity during otherwise unproductive moments. Promote paper reduction. Encourage your workplace to adopt paper reduction strategies. Reward innovative ideas and initiatives aimed at minimizing unnecessary paper use. Lee Grossman, a management consultant specializing in paperwork problems, believes costs could be slashed by 20% through effective paper management. Remember, every piece of paper saved contributes directly to your efficiency and bottom line. Enhancing writing and reading effectiveness. Reducing any company's costs by 20% would significantly boost the financial scoreboard. Here are some strategies to minimize your active participation in the paper blizzard. Many paperwork tasks are unnecessary, and how effectively we handle them brings us back to the basics of writing and reading. Let's delve into each aspect. How to write less and communicate more. Many of us dread writing, whether it's a memo, letter, or report. One reason is that many of us are simply poor writers. However, this can be corrected with patience and practice. What makes a poor writer? In my opinion, a poor writer fails to make themselves easily understood. Several factors contribute to poor writing. Firstly, we've inherited numerous bad writing practices from the 19th century. Flowery, verbose language was once a symbol of literacy and culture. For instance, saying, "Jack propelled the prolate spheroid," was deemed superior to, "Jack threw the football." Our educational system often encourages using complex words and phrases when simplicity would communicate better. This outdated practice persists despite the 20th century's emphasis on clarity amidst rapid change and technical complexity. Another reason for poor writing is the desire to impress others with our vocabularies. Academic papers often attempt to make simple concepts seem deep and mystifying. Disorganized thinking leads to confused writing, since writing is an expression of thought. Attempting to mask ignorance or poor solutions with complex language only deceives the most naive readers. Improving your writing, like swimming or golfing, requires practice. Writing to communicate demands intelligence, common sense, and the abandonment of any beliefs about being a poor writer. The ground rules are simple. Get organized. Define what you're writing: a letter, report, or memo. Who's the audience? What's the main point? Do supporting points relate to the main idea? For longer pieces, planning and outlining save time and energy. Organizing facts before writing promotes smoother composition. Give yourself ample space. Writing with sufficient room fosters freedom of thought flow. Choose a comfortable pen or consider typing, although simultaneous typing and composing might be challenging. Focus on your reader. What message do you want to convey? Adapt your language to suit them. Begin with your central purpose and outline the structure for longer reports. Trim unnecessary words. Vigorous writing is concise, as Strunk and White assert. Every word should contribute meaningfully. After writing, review for superfluous words and sentences. Streamlining enhances your style. Keep it simple. Write to express, not impress. Use short sentences and paragraphs. Avoid double talk. Clarity trumps complexity. As Theodore Roosevelt noted, writings are useless unless they are read, and they cannot be read unless they are readable. Avoid ambiguous words. In written communication, clarity is crucial. Ambiguity confuses readers. For instance, consider a statement like, "Living costs in this area are commensurate with other areas of the country, and out-housing costs are the same." Ambiguity undermines effective communication. Support with specifics. Specific, detailed writing captivates readers. Illustrate ideas vividly for clarity and impact. Write naturally. Project your thoughts onto paper as you speak. Active, direct language engages readers effectively. Respect your reader. Avoid condescension. Simplify without underestimating your reader's intelligence or knowledge. Volumes explore effective writing, offering further insights. Organize, simplify, and practice to refine your writing prowess. Improving your reading effectiveness. Print remains potent. Amidst debates on declining reading habits, the value of reading remains pivotal. Successful individuals are avid readers, leveraging knowledge for professional growth. To remain effective amid evolving professions, staying informed is imperative. Selectivity is key amidst information overload. Effective reading involves quality over quantity. Here's how to refine your approach. Align reading with goals. Assess material against your objectives. Discard irrelevant content swiftly. Focus on key content. Identify main points and key ideas swiftly. Skim where appropriate. Prioritize relevance. Minimize reading load. Pare down subscriptions to essential journals. Delegate reading and summaries to subordinates where feasible. Annotate for future reference. Mark key passages for easy feasible. Annotate for future reference. Mark key passages for easy retrieval. Active reading aids memory. Retention. Manage reading backlog. Set deadlines for reading or discard outdated materials promptly. Enhance reading speed. While speed matters, comprehension remains paramount. Courses and self-practice can refine reading skills effectively. Efficient reading complements effective writing, enhancing overall productivity. Embrace proactive habits to navigate the paper blizzard and elevate your professional impact. Chapter 9. Team Fusion. Blending talents for victory. Who else can do the job? He does the work of two men, Laurel and Hardy.
Minus Pradlo.
Do you work long hours or find yourself taking work home? Are you doing routine tasks that others could handle or be trained to do? Do you struggle to complete important tasks on schedule because you're juggling your responsibilities and someone else's? If you answered yes to any of these questions, then you likely fall prey to the do-it-yourself work trap discussed in Chapter 1. As previously noted, there simply isn't enough time in one lifetime to do everything. However, there's ample time to get everything done if you utilize the efforts of others. This is the essence of delegation, assigning tasks to others that you want or need to accomplish. In one sense, delegation is fundamental to urban living. We rely on others to provide transportation, grow and prepare food, build and furnish homes, educate children, and so forth. How many individuals made it possible for you to obtain this book? Surely, at least a few hundred. The same applies to your food, car, clothes, and nearly everything else you acquire. Long ago, we recognized that assigning tasks to specialists fosters a society that works less yet achieves more. However, in our jobs and daily lives, many of us underutilize delegation. We indulge in performing tasks of little importance or that others could more effectively handle. Consequently, less time is dedicated to high-priority matters that only we can manage, greatly diluting our effectiveness. The history of delegation. The history of delegation dates back to the book of Exodus in the Old Testament. After leading his people out of Egypt, Moses fell victim to the do-it-yourself myth. He insisted on personally resolving every dispute among the people of Israel. Recognizing Moses' overcommitment, his father-in-law, Jethro, proposed a solution to enhance Moses' effectiveness. Firstly, educate the people in the law. Secondly, appoint capable individuals to adjudicate routine disputes. This strategy liberated Moses to focus his time and energy on crucial, long-term, and non-routine governance matters. Thus, Scripture states, Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all Israel and made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but every simple matter they decided themselves. Thus, one of history's most effective leaders enhanced his effectiveness through delegation. Of course, Moses had the original to-do and not-to-do list, and he didn't squander paper either. Skillfully delegating tasks remains a key to success. Understanding what to handle and what to assign is critical for everyone, even those without direct reports. We can all benefit from delegation, whether at home or work. Why do most of us delegate less than we should? It doesn't occur to us. Often, we become so engrossed in our activities that we overlook the possibility of assigning tasks to others. Perhaps numerous tasks in our home or workplace could be delegated, but out of habit, we assume responsibility. There's a straightforward remedy for this. Whenever you have a task, ask yourself, can someone else do this? If so, delegate it. Hire someone to mow your lawn or screen your mail, focusing your time and energy on high-impact goals. It might cost a few dollars to have your lawn mowed, but that time can be invested in creative projects or business deals with potentially unlimited returns. Trading money for time has been a practice since antiquity, demonstrating that people willingly exchange the limited days of their lives for discs of copper, bronze, silver, and gold. We believe it's a sign of weakness. This notion likely stems from early childhood. As infants, we're entirely reliant on others for survival. However, as we mature, the parental message encourages independence and self-sufficiency. The image of complete self-sufficiency might have been valid in rural societies, but is now a myth in contemporary urban living. As previously mentioned, our present society depends on mutual interdependence for food, clothing, housing, security, and nearly everything else. Delegation signifies strength, not weakness. To neglect delegation is to disregard one of your most valuable resources. We believe it's immoral. This concept is an offshoot of outdated beliefs about hard work. Some believe that delegating tasks equates to laziness and immoral living. However, morality fundamentally revolves around two principles: avoiding harm to oneself and others. Delegation, when executed responsibly, doesn't breach these principles. We prefer doing the job ourselves. Many of us fill our days with trivial tasks that drain time and energy, tasks easily delegated to others. The rationale often provided is, "So what? I enjoy it." Unfortunately, the enjoyment derived from menial tasks often serves as an escape from tackling less familiar, less pleasant, yet more important tasks. Busy work fosters a false sense of accomplishment and alleviates guilt or insecurity about neglecting vital responsibilities. Consider Horace, an aeronautical engineer promoted to supervisor due to his technical competence and stellar performance. Despite his managerial responsibilities, Horace clung to his design work, which he performed comfortably and proficiently. Within weeks, his office mirrored his old workspace, neglecting supervisory duties. Predictably, administrative issues piled up, and Horace's refusal to delegate led to resignation and relocation to a competitor. While bright and capable, Horace became his own worst enemy. Fear of losing control. Insecure managers often fear that empowering subordinates will jeopardize their job security. Similarly, some men react similarly when their spouses pursue employment. Yet, the fear of losing control lacks substantive foundation. Assuming a paternalistic or authoritarian role merely stifles personal and collective development. Eventually, individuals discern the ruse, prompting introspection. Who needs you? I'm too busy to delegate. Delegation does require time initially: calling, assigning, sometimes training, and verifying job completion. Similar to planning, delegating demands an initial investment of time yet ultimately conserves time and energy. Being too busy to delegate mirrors being too busy to plan. A refusal to invest time upfront increases the likelihood of ineffective, futile efforts. Effective delegation. Enhancing efficiency and growth. But I can do it better and faster. Once again, the problem here is prioritizing short-term expediency over long-term effectiveness. By handling tasks yourself, you only ensure you'll need to redo them when they resurface. This rationale also neglects the crucial need to develop others, especially in leadership roles within families, departments, corporations, or religious groups. If you hold authority, training others to be productive members is a key responsibility. Failing to delegate inhibits their learning and growth opportunities. My boss won't let me delegate. It's common for superiors to insist that certain tasks be handled personally rather than delegated. For instance, as a department manager, your boss might require you to conduct all employee interviews instead of assigning them to an assistant or HR. Similarly, in a household context, a spouse might prefer you cook meals instead of hiring help or dining out. In both scenarios, the issue stems from a misunderstanding about job priorities. Convincing your boss of the benefits of delegation can resolve this. Proposing a trial period for delegated tasks to demonstrate improved outcomes may sway their opinion. If results are positive, continued delegation becomes viable. If not, the task may indeed require your direct involvement. Fear of being disliked. Many hesitate to delegate due to an unspoken fear of being disliked by subordinates. However, people generally appreciate feeling valued within their organizations. To contribute meaningfully, they need responsibilities. Skilled delegators are usually viewed more favorably than those who insist on maintaining control over everything. Fear of mistakes and criticism. Perfectionism often impedes effectiveness. The fear of errors leads some to avoid delegating tasks. Statements like, "If I assign this to Harvey, he'll mess it up," reflect a perfectionist mindset detrimental to growth. Cultivating an environment where mistakes are seen as learning opportunities fosters effectiveness and innovation. Reverse delegation. Delegates don't want responsibility. In some workplaces, reverse delegation occurs, where delegated tasks are pushed back to the delegator. This behavior thrives in intolerant environments. Encouraging autonomy and decision-making is crucial. For instance, a mechanic named Joe habitually deferred decisions to his supervisor, fearing responsibility. Addressing such issues involves empowering individuals to take ownership of their delegated tasks.